Today on the MrMaple Show podcast, Tim and Matt count down the top 25 columnar trees for small gardens.
Welcome, one and all gardeners all around the world. We appreciate you tuning in here to the MrMaple podcast, guys. Today we're going to be talking about our favorite topic, which is plants. We talk about Japanese maples a lot. This one's got Japanese maples mixed in with a few others.
Guys, we're talking about top 25 columnar plants for small gardens. For everyone who's got those small gardens out there, columnar trees give you that opportunity to have something that doesn't take up a lot of space on the ground, but gives you some good vertical interest. So columnar trees can be very useful in those small garden settings. You know, if you've got a large garden, they can add that vertical interest as well. But small gardens, these give you that extra thing. They can give you to allow you to have cooler plants and more plants in those smaller spaces because they don't take up a lot of width and they get some height to them, giving you unique interest out there in the landscape and garden.
So I'm Matt. That's my brother, Tim. We make up MrMaple.com. If you see the plants, if you hear about plants in today's podcast that you'd like to get, you can always check them out on MrMaple.com. If they're not currently in stock, you can always sign up to get notified. Find us on any of your major podcast platforms if you're watching us on YouTube. And hey, if you're listening to us on a major podcast platform, go find us under the MrMaple Show on YouTube as well. So we're going to get right into it, guys. We got some phenomenal plants on here. Columnar plants are some of the most popular, amazing plants that you can grow. As we get less and less garden space, everybody's looking for the miniatures, they're looking for the smallers, and then they're looking for the columnars because they still provide that vertical interest. They still expand the room up. You still get to look up. You still feel like the garden's bigger when you get those columnar plants.
I mean, that's one of the cool things about these columnar plants. Guys, we're going to get right into our top 25 list of columnar plants and trees for your small gardens. Coming number 25, we've got Acer palmatum, Little Red.
Yeah, this is a great red selection. A little bit smaller than some of the other upright reds, typically around 5 to 6 foot tall, making it a more short, narrow plant. So you get that narrow interest in it, but not a lot of height, within a 10-year period. Now, this is going to be a bold red, going to a little bit more of a cherry red in the fall.
Yeah, and it's by the same guy that brought us Mr. Makawa, so it's got some really cool, the guy knows what he's doing who introduced it. It fits in small gardens. It gives you that good cherry red color in the spring, great red fall color, and it doesn't get as much height as some of the other columnar trees we're talking about. But I had to put it in here because in that small garden, you might have that small space where you don't want something to get so high. And Little Red is that perfect tree that's not going to get very tall, but also not get very wide, making it an easy tree to use in any landscape and garden.
Now that one's going to work zones 5 through 9, like most of our Japanese maples on this list. We're going to mix it up, though. They're not all Japanese maples today. We're just talking about our favorites in this columnar list. Coming in here at number 24, we got Jerre Schwartz. That's Acer palmatum Jerre Schwartz, another Japanese maple. This one is another one that's kind of short and kind of columnar, so it kind of fits that category as well. Stays fairly narrow for a witch's broom.
And it's one of those trees that people talk about the color on this tree and its dense compact habit rather than its columnar form. Its color is amazing. I mean, you can give you some really nice pink-orange kind of colors you can't get off of any other Japanese maple in the early spring. I know Richard Bowmore, one of our very good friends and one of our guys that we would travel around with to go visit nurseries and gardens with, he loved Jerre Schwartz. It was, Makawa's probably his favorite tree, but Jerre Schwartz probably comes in a close second, I would have to guess. It is so amazing on its color. I mean, and then after you get that pink-orange kind of spring color, you get some really nice bronzes that you don't get on any other Japanese maple. I mean, the colors are outrageous on Jerre Schwartz, but that columnar habit is what makes it so ideal for these gardens. And then you get that color on top of that. I mean, it's an easy tree to use out in the landscape and garden, 6 feet in height, 3-4 foot in width in 10 years. I mean, it is a dynamic tree out there in the landscape, and bold orange fall colors as well. I mean, some really nice orange fall colors. It was found by our good friend Billy Schwartz, named after his mother, Jerry, and that's where he gets that name of Jerre Schwartz. We've got a full podcast about him. It's called the Billy Schwartz Experience. If you want to hear some crazy stories, you should go check that out because he's been in maples his entire life. And also some crazy things like Muhammad Ali. He was one of his lawyers during the Joe Frazier fight.
He should get his own podcast. I'd listen to it every day. It'd be amazing. All right, guys, coming here at number 23, we've got Ficus Sylvatica Dawyck Gold. Now, this is a columnar European beech. Going to work zones 4 through 7. Really amazing colors. Love that golden yellow that it provides in the landscape, but also that narrow footprint.
Yeah, we're talking about a tree that gets, 10 to 20 feet in height by 4 to 6 foot in width in 10 years. It's important to give those Ficus Sylvaticas, those European beeches, good drainage. I mean, I think that is real critical whenever you're planting these. But it's tall and narrow, and it's golden, so it gives you that yellow color out there in the landscape. And I love what that yellow can do out there. I mean, that yellow can brighten up the entire garden. And if you've got a small garden, it's going to shine. I mean, it's going to be a focal point out there that's really going to rock it out. If you've got a big garden, it's going to allow you to be able to see every color of green out there in the landscape and contrast well with your reds and your blues.
All right, I got to throw a teaser in here, guys, for number 1. Stick around all the way to the end. Number 1 is going to be a tree you've never heard of before that we're talking about our favorites. So we throw our own the favorites sometimes. This is a never heard of before columnar introduction that may get patented here at Mr. Maple. We'll see.
And not a maple.
Oh, well, I don't know if you want to tell them that much now. You might be giving away too much.
Y'all, coming in at number 22, we've got Quercus Skinny Jeans.
Oh, so clever. They put jeans like Genes, jeans instead of Jeans. Oh, I hate skinny jeans.
But I like Quercus Skinny Jeans.
I like Quercus Skinny Jeans. I hate man pants skinny jeans. I'm fat, so all jeans are skinny jeans to me. You know why I don't wear skinny jeans? They're hard for me to pull off.
I'm not skinny. That's why I don't like skinny jeans.
I can't pull off skinny jeans. That's a double entendre there.
Now, this is an English oak that has that narrow habit. Now, oaks are awesome because they're some of the structures in the landscape that can live for hundreds of years and give you this regal presence out there in the garden. And when you have an oak, oaks are known for having just some amazing fall colors as well. So you can get some really nice red fall colors and yellows to oranges as well in there on some of these oaks. Quercus robur is an English oak, and this is an English oak hybrid. Y'all, skinny jeans, next level oak.
You think the other oaks think this one's a little bit more emo than some of the other? Good work zones 5 through 8, guys. Really great habit to this one. I mean, really the shape is what's so crazy about it. It's going to be upwards of 40 foot. So you get a pretty big tree out of this, but only a 10 to 15 foot wide plant. So, even 40 to 50 feet in this nice columnar oak, you get this real spherical, narrow habit to it. And really just next level. I love the absolute shape of this. Like it's absolutely beautiful.
Now, I mentioned it was a robur hybrid. It's a robur hybrid with bicolor, which is a swamp oak, which means this oak can actually be very adaptive throughout the landscape and garden. It can handle a little more water than some of your other oaks out there in the landscape and garden, which is pretty awesome. It's disease resistant. It's easy to grow. And it gives you that tall, narrow shape with the oak that everybody loves.
All right, guys, coming in here at 21 on the columnar list, we've got Pinus Stowe Pillar. Now, this is a great plant. This is a white pine, going to work zones 3 through 8. I first saw this tree at Tom Cox's while we were walking around. I mean, it's probably been 10, 15 years ago, doing a tour of the Cox Arboretum, and absolutely love the shape of it. Like, I just instantly, when I need this, whatever this is, I need to be growing this, I need to get onto this. And I might have got some signwood from at that point going forward, but just an absolute great plant.
I remember that time because Matt brought me over specifically to this tree and was like, Tim, check out the narrow habit on this pine. This is awesome. This is a tree we need to be producing. This is an amazing pine that is easy to use out in the landscape because of its narrow habit. You get an evergreen out there. It's a Pinus strobus. Pinus strobus is a native white pine in the United States, so it grows throughout a big range all across the United States. It's easy to grow. It's beautiful. Gives you that evergreen interest, but that narrow habit makes it so easy to use. This is a selection that was found by Greg Williams of Vermont. Now, you may have heard of Quercus rubra, Greg's variegated. That's the same Greg. He also introduced many of those dwarf white pines that have those twisting needles to them. There's a whole series of those that Greg introduced into the trade. Stowe Pillar, probably his most mainstream plant that's easy to use in those smaller gardens.
Dude, Greg's got oaks. Those are both phenomenal introductions. Absolutely love it. A 12, 14 foot tall tree, only about 5 foot wide, so it's got that narrow print to it. Absolutely perfect for the garden. All right, y'all, coming in here at number 20, we've got a bald cypress breaking the top 20. Taxodium discum, Lindsey Skyward.
Yeah, Lindsey Skyward has that narrow shape on a bald cypress. And I think this is really important to use in the landscape, especially if your landscape is a wetter landscape where many of your other trees can't grow. Mm-hmm. You can get that vertical interest out of Lindsey Skyward that you can't get out of other trees.
Now, we always reiterate this. I mean, I think we reiterate this more than anybody in the industry, and still it's kind of funny when people tell me, like, I don't know. But these are going to work in zones 4 through 11. Now, zones are only rated on cold hardiness. We always try to give an upper scale there. Kind of helps a little bit for at least the East Coast a lot. But typically zones 4 through 11. Now, being that this is a bald cypress, you could certainly put this in wetter spots in the landscape, in spots that you couldn't put a Japanese maple. Even a 25-foot tall tree of this, only about 5 foot wide. So, not a gigantic width going on, making it a great upward columnar tree. It's kind of adds some great interest. When you put that height into a garden, especially narrow height, it really draws the eye in, and it kind of makes a cathedral. Like, you go into the room, the gardening room, if you'll make it a room, and all of a sudden your eyes are brought upward. It kind of directs you where to go in the garden, but instantly it feels like the ceiling's higher, right?
Now, a bald cypress is a conifer, but it is a deciduous conifer. I mean, it's called a bald cypress for a reason, because it drops its needles during the winter months. But that also means that you can get some interesting bronze colors in the fall out of these bald cypresses that are typically green, and that narrow shape, something unique and different. It's an easy plant to grow. Bald cypresses, while they can handle the wet spots in the garden, they're durable and easy to grow anywhere in the garden, whether that's that drier spot in the landscape. It's easy to grow and have a beautiful tree. I mean, this is a selection from Mustang, Oklahoma. And
right.
If you know anything about Oklahoma, they're not a very wet place a lot of times.
You can stick this one in Texas. You can go so many different diverse climates with it. It's going to be equally at home in Eastern Carolina. You could go a lot of different locations with this, because bald cypress range all up and down the East Coast or West Coast really as well. But this plant's going to do well in a diverse range and be cold tolerant as well as heat tolerant. I mean, we mentioned, the heat tolerance there is for Oklahoma, but zone 4, that's pretty cold. That's no joke there for the temperature change.
All right, guys, coming at number 9, we've got Carpinus betulus. So this is a European hornbeam called Columnaris nana.
I love this plant. I used to push it a lot early on. When we bought Highland Creek, it really got us into doing more things outside of Acer. I would say one of our first introductions to doing more plants besides Japanese maples was when we purchased Highland Creek Nursery from Brian Upchurch. And Columnaris nana was one he was doing a lot of. So we instantly kind of adapted that into our lineup. And I really, really love this plant. I think it's beautiful. It's got a good texture. But I like that small, dense shape to it. Like, it reminds me a lot of what I like about Jerre Schwartz shape. Like, it's not tall, but it's kind of thick, and it's very full and dense. It's one of those trees that kind of gives you a little bit of Makawa vibes, but in a columnar habit.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the interesting things. I know for years you had one in the Makawa garden, and now it's on the bank here at Mr. Maple. We love this tree because it has that small stature. It doesn't take up a lot of space, but it's one of those trees that can really just shine. I mean, it's got that layering kind of look to it, that bubbly appearance, and it almost said like that miniature kind of Christmas tree kind of shape out there in the landscape and garden. And this is a hornbeam. You're going to get some amazing yellows out of this in the fall, and that narrow habit makes it so easy to use out there in the landscape. It goes so well in the Japanese maple garden because that yellow color contrasts with much of the oranges and reds you can get out of most of your maples. But that narrow habit means it doesn't take up a lot of space as well.
Now, this one's one that's going to work zones 4 through 9 as well, giving it a wide range for gardening. Typically a 7-foot tall tree, 3 to 4 foot wide. So very, very compact and dense, very columnar in its eventual structure. I mean, you do tend to kind of get more narrow with this one over time. Kind of gives a little bit of a teardrop shape when it first puts on growth, especially when they're younger. You kind of get this more skinny part at the top, a little bit wider at the base. But the overall growth of the tree, even in 20 years, is still very narrow and skinny.
I mean, if you think about what people normally use Carpinus betulus for, the European hornbeam, it's for street trees. And the fact that it can handle that sort of concrete jungle area, it can handle those high heat areas, it can handle the pollution that you get in those street areas, means that it's going to do extremely well and perform extremely well in your small garden. It's going to be extremely durable and be a low maintenance landscape tree that's easy to use.
All right, guys, coming in here at number 18, we probably got our most widely used plant on the list. We've got the Ilex Sky Pencil. Now, this is one that's going to work zones 5 through 9 as well. This is a narrow Japanese holly. We've talked about it a little bit on our channel. It's became just a staple in American horticulture for landscapers. They're readily available. They're not that expensive. A lot of landscaping, when they're doing initial landscaping for a house, we'll do some installs with this. But don't undersell it. It's a great plant.
Yeah, I mean, I love what they did there at the Hopewood Estate at the entrance to their back garden, and they have a sky pencil on each side of the entranceway to their formal backyard. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think that's a great way to use sky pencil.
Yeah, a lot of people use boxwoods, and then the sky pencils kind of become the entranceway is almost more of a formal English garden style setting. You can really kind of add that columnar kind of design to the landscape, kind of drive people where you want to go pathwise as well.
And this is a common tree to use as that foundational planting. It's probably one of the most popular plants used in America today is the sky pencil. It's a selection by Mr. Shibamichi in Japan. And when we went to Japan, one of our last trips, we went and visited one of our friends, Taka Kobayashi, and we said, can you get us in to see Mr. Shibamichi? Because, sky pencil, most people don't know that his introduction, but he's introduced so many amazing plants. This one's probably the most mainstream, but I mean, when we went to his place, he had just sports on palmatum rootstock that were just bright pink, and he's like, check this out. And it's just this little ball, looks almost like a witch's broom, but bright pink. I mean, he knows his stuff, he knows his plants, and he loves it and passionate about his trees. And sky pencil is one of those trees that everybody can enjoy. And it's so easy to use out there in the landscape. It gives you an evergreen interest on a little holly. And it's easy to use as a screening plant. It's easy to use as a foundational plant. It's easy just to add some vertical interest with that narrow shape.
Yeah, this one even, 6-8 foot tall tree, typically only going to be about 2 foot wide. So very narrow in its design. Nice berries on it as well. People like this one. It's got a lot of great uses in the landscape. I was in an experimental place. Won't say where, but I was looking at a yellow form of this the other day. Pretty cool.
That's pretty awesome. Sounds like something next level. Y'all, coming in next, we've got a maple. We're getting into Japanese maple. We're talking about Acer palmatum, Skeeter's broom.
Yeah, interesting plant. Skeeter's broom, introduction by Skeeter Rod out of Connecticut. Very heat tolerant, very durable. Going to work zones 5 through 9. Beautiful plant, very bushy and full in its design, but still very columnar. Now, this one starts out a very bright picked up red. It goes to very cherry red in the fall as well. So very bright fall colors of this one. Holds the color really well. You can green up a little bit in August on this one if you're in heavy sun, especially in the south. But one that's particularly durable and particularly good at holding its color. It's
got some great fall colors as well. I know Richard Bomar in Simpsonville, South Carolina, has a beautiful one of these near his house. And it's just got that almost perfect shape all by itself. It gives you that larger Christmas tree kind of shape, 15 feet in height by 5 to 6 foot in width in 10 years, meaning it gets out there and it's got that perfectly round shape that comes to a nice point. Cherry red in the spring, the colors are phenomenal. It's an easy tree to use out there in the landscape to give you some good red color. Fits in that small garden very easily with its nice narrow shape.
Yeah, a lot of people like to start this one off in a container, kind of enjoy that columnar habit to it. Then as it grows, it kind of outgrows the plant or get it into a good spot in the ground. I've seen a lot of people growing it that way. Awesome plant, and one that's going to add a lot of interest to your landscape.
All right, guys, coming up next, we've got another maple, but not a palmatum. We're talking about an Acer burgerianum. We've got Acer burgerianum Miyasama yatsubusa. Now, when you see an older Miyasama yatsubusa that's grown with some sunlight, you start to realize that this tree can get some nice density to it and stays fairly narrow. We've got a beautiful one of these at our Buckholtz farm. And I mean, that narrow habit is so beautiful out there in the landscape. You get that trident maple leaf, but a trident maple that's a Taiwanese trident, the Acer burgerianum subspecies formosanum, a little more cartoon-like on the leaf itself, real bubbly appearance. And that narrow habit makes this tree that's awesome and easy to use. It's durable because it's a trident maple. And you just get that narrow habit.
Yeah, it tends to cone out a little bit. Like you get a little bit more narrow at the top, but you get this kind of nice cone shape to it. But not a lot of width. Like you said, zones 5 through 9 on this one. Now, being that it's a trident maple, often used as street trees as well. This is a durable plant you can put in a high sun setting. So even though it's zones 5 through 9, you could typically put this one in more sun than a lot of your palmatums in that heavy zone 8 of the south. Really a dense, durable plant that's just really unique in the landscape. Very popular for bonsai because it's a trident, so you can use it for that when they're smaller. Small, compact leaves, like Tim was saying. And I love the roundness of this one. You can actually get a little bit of red new growth on this one, which looks pretty good too. Those late summer flushes will often have a little bit of reddish orange tint to them, which I think gives it a real interesting approach over top of that green.
And this is one too that can put a lot of seeds on there, which can be an added interest during the fall when you have those samaras just hanging off of the branches. Gives you something unique and interest in that fall time before the fall color hits. And you get some really nice oranges and reds on Miyasama Yatabusa. And this is an awesome tree you can use.
All right, y'all, we're all the way down to the top 15. We've got Pinus nigra, Arnold Sentinel.
Yeah, this is an Austrian black pine, not an Australian black pine. From Austria, the country, not Australia, the continent.
Throw another shrimp on the Barbie.
No. This is a tall, narrow evergreen. Beautiful specimen out there in the landscape and garden. I mean, it gives you that sort of black pine look with those long needles, that darker, richer green color. And it's a durable plant to use out there.
Yeah, this is going to work zones 4 through zones 8, guys. Really great habit to this one, too. A 7 to 8 foot tall tree, typically only about 2 to 3 feet wide. So you get that dense evergreen, that great looking foliage. This was one found at the Arnold Arboretum in 1984, so it's been around a minute. But it's a tree that's awesome in the landscape. I mean, if you're looking for an evergreen that's really going to give you tough, durable, and a lot of that kind of real interesting, they kind of look like Thunbergia in a way. Like they share a lot of interest with those, the Pinus nigra. You get that real elongated needle look to it.
Yeah, I mean, if you look through many of our photos on MrMaple.com of Arnold Sentinel, you can see how beautiful this tree is. And all of our photos on Mr. Maple come from the garden of Missy and Wayne Galloway. And they've got a beautiful garden on the top of the parkway. And we've done a walk through there. You can go check
that video out
on our Mr. Maple Show on YouTube. But in their Polito garden, she's got dwarf conifers everywhere. And then she's got the vertical interest of Arnold Sentinel.
And all the conifers seem smaller and more compact because of that. If you didn't have that one towering Arnold Sentinel over the whole thing, you don't realize how compact and dense the whole group is, right?
Exactly. And adding that one tree out there in the landscape, you get that vertical interest. It gives you that height. Doesn't take up a lot of width, so it doesn't take up a lot of space. But then also, it just makes you realize how much smaller the dwarfs are around it. And I think that's an excellent way to use a tree like Arnold Sentinel, is give you that vertical interest. Don't take up a lot of space. She's got beautiful views out there. It doesn't block the views because it doesn't have a lot of width to it. Mm-hmm. But it gives you that interest out there that makes the whole garden seem bigger and more amazing.
Yeah, you really start to understand how interesting the whole landscape is set out just because of that one flagpole sticking up, right? It's that one peak. All right, guys, coming here at number 14, we've got Thuya occidentalis Degroot Spire. Now, this is a really interesting columnar arborvitae. Great plant, fast growing, durable. Going to work zones 4 through 8. I'd say one of the quintessential columnar conifers you can get out there. I think these are used at Dr. Criticos' home, kind of lining, his columns to his house. We use a lot of pictures for that on our website as well. But it's a great way to kind of, create that columnar feel, and it kind of breaks up the architecture of the home, and it brings it into the garden. So it pairs the two together. Yeah, being an arborvitae, this tree is easy to grow. It needs good drainage. It's one of those trees, though, that is becoming more and more popular because it gives you, the narrow shape, more narrow than something like emerald green. It's slower growing, so it doesn't take over the space as well. But that means that it doesn't take over your yard. So if you had a big emerald giant out there that you're trying to screen, it's going to take up a ton of space in your landscape because it's going to get some width to it as it grows fast, as it gets its height. This thing takes up a small amount of space. So you can use this for a screening plant. It takes longer to get there, but we're talking, we've got a 20-something-year-old tree on our bank, and it's no wider than maybe 2 feet on its width. And it's amazing that this tree can give you that vertical interest, can screen that, screen out things, and you can actually mass plant these to give a screen effect and block out what you want without taking up much of your yard. I think that's one of the big benefits of it that people are just now beginning to see with the Degroot Spire, but it fits in that ornamental tree landscape as well because it can give you that vertical interest in a small space, and it's a slow grower. Typically, in 10 years, this one's only about 7 to 8 feet tall, maybe only about a foot wide. They can get 20 foot. I've seen some beautiful specimens. So Absolutely cool plant. Not a lot of people notice it's like Groot from Guardians of the Galaxy. When you're asleep, it comes to life and dances the Jackson 5 outside your house too. They paid Vin Diesel the whole movie just to say I'm Groot. That's all he had to say. They could have just AI'd that. That could have just been a soundbite. They could have just paid him once.
Y'all, coming at number 13, we've got a Japanese maple. We've got Acer palmatum Columnar. And that's the cultivar name. It's called Columnar because it's a green upright, good columnar form with some orange fall color.
Yeah, very durable, very heat tolerant. Going to work zones 5 through 9 as well on this one. Typically around a foot of growth a year. Stays very slim. So, even a 10-foot tall tree, only about 3 feet wide, maybe 4 foot wide, slow in its development of growth. With many of the columnar Japanese maples, growing this one a little bit more sun does keep it more narrow. So you want to keep this one typically in some sunlight. And you want to remove any wide lower branches. So, we have a whole video on how to prune, but I would definitely remove any double leaders. So if you start to develop a double leader early, it's good to pick one and let that continue to be the central leader. That's just a good tip for keeping it more columnar. But naturally, this one wants to be very thin.
And I think this tree stands out from other columnar selections we may be talking about later, and the fact that this is a green upright that goes to orange in the fall. I think that's very distinctive for this particular selection. If it was another red, there might not be a place for it in the trade. But the fact that this is easy to grow, it's maybe a little more narrow, and it's got that orange fall color means that this tree is very unique and easy to use. It's going to give you some dynamic fall colors out there in the landscape as well. Y'all, amazing Japanese maple, just really hitting the market. I mean, you don't see it out there as much. We will be offering it again on Mr. Maple. If any of these trees we're talking about, we're going to be continually offering on Mr. Maple. If they're currently sold out, you can go to MrMaple.com, click Notify Me, and we'll notify you when those trees become available again.
All right, guys, next up, coming in here at number 12, we've got Cedrus Atlantica Fastigiata.
Yeah, Fastigiata is amazing. It's one of those trees out there in the landscape that gives you that just like ski lodge type feel.
That's a great way to call it.
It fits in the landscape. If you go out to Pigeon Forge, that's one of the trees that they use everywhere in the parking lots because they're trying to give that feel in their garden, in their landscaped garden around the parking lot. They're trying to make it feel like you're at a ski lodge. They're trying
really
to
sell it, man, with the Bojangles and the Pigeon Forge. Really classing the place up. Like, what do they got at the Waffle House, too?
But it's true. It gives you some blue silver color out there that's really awesome. And it just gives you a presence out there that it takes you to another world. And that's what this tree does in a unique way. It's got some of that silver blue color. With the Cedrus Atlanticas, you've got to give them good drainage. I think that's critical with the Atlas cedars. But this is a blue Atlas cedar that has a narrow shape.
I love your references there, Pigeon Forge, man. What a classy place. All right, guys. This one, fairly narrow. In that 10 to 12 foot height range, typically only about 5-6 foot wide. They can get a little wider and a little taller with age, but it's always kind of relative to those dimensions. Great plant, durable, heat tolerant. Definitely one for the landscape.
Yeah, when I think about blue Atlas cedars, I think about spray paint t-shirts.
Oh, jeez. Airbrush
t-shirts. Anyways, guys, coming at number 11. We're all the way down to number 11 from 25. We've got an amazing, this is an Alaskan cedar. We're talking about Green Arrow.
Yeah, Green Arrow is going to work zones 4 through 8 as well. Love this one, guys. One of my favorite conifers for sure. Just beautiful. Got a lot going on. This one typically is only, 4 foot wide in that kind of 20 foot span. You can get a little bit of a skirt on it sometimes, so you got to watch out for the width of the bottom, but that upper growth always wants to be very narrow and columnar.
Yeah, and with that skirt, I do recommend if it starts to get some of that skirt at the bottom, prune that out a little bit, and you'll focus more of that energy towards the top. Get that narrow shape that you see on some of our photos that we've got on our website from our Buckholtz farm. Green Arrow is an introduction that was introduced in the trade by Talon Buckholtz, and it just has that narrow shape on a Chamaecyparis nucatensis, sometimes called a Cupressus nucatensis, but we often stick with what people knew it as in the beginning, and that's the Chamaecyparis nucatensis. Green Arrow gives you that vertical interest, but its narrow shape is amazing, and it can get a few arms out as it gets bigger that give it a unique sort of like animal-like, like creature-like feel out there in the landscape.
All right, guys, coming in here, number 10. We're all the way into the top 10. We've got one of my favorite trees to say. It's Acer pseudosubuldianum subspecies Takesimense. Say it 3 times fast. I love this plant. Sometimes we call it the Oolong Dew Island maple. which isn't that much easier to say. It's not like that. It's like, oh, the oolong doodle. Now it's easy. But love this plant. Pseudospolianum, so it's cold tolerant, it's heat tolerant. But guess what? The species itself is very columnar.
Yeah, I mean, some other places have tried to introduce varieties and they call it Acer pseudospolianum, and then they put their name there in columnar. And I'm like, how's that different from the species itself? Because the species is naturally columnar. You know, Takesimense is amazing. And you mentioned how it's a fun name to say. If you want to see people trying to say it, you can go check out our species highlight on this on the Mr. Maple Show. We've got a whole video, and it starts out with all of our employees, a lot of them, trying to say Acer pseudospolianum subspecies Takesimense, because it is a mouthful, but it's a beautiful tree out there in the landscape. I mean, you get this full moon-like leaf that's almost like a perfectly round leaf, possibly one of the most circular-like leaves of any of the Japonicums. So it's very pleasing to the eye. And then you get fall colors that are out of this world, often yellows, oranges, and reds, all at the same time.
Yeah, I love this plant. It's easy to grow. It's beautiful. I have one right next to my porch, and it's a great place for it because it provides some of the best fall color of any maple I've ever seen. Oranges with reds and yellows in it in the fall. It really is one of the best kind of bold red oranges I've ever seen. And it's hard to describe the actual color because it morphs into a lot of different colors. Like, it just keeps kind of changing. But that big leaf is the perfect palette for that fall color, and all in a very narrow habit. I mean, the tree itself wants to be fairly upright. A lot of the branching is very arched up, so it's very narrow in its design. The tree in my landscape, 20 foot tall, no more than 4 to 5 foot wide at any point of it. And just an absolute gem of a tree.
Now, Takesimense, Acer Takesimense, or Pseudospolianum subspecies Takesimense, it comes naturally from Oolong-Do Island, which is between Japan and North Korea. And it actually rushes right there as well. And the Siberian frost and winds come in and hit that island pretty hard. And this tree handles those extreme colds. And people rate this down to zone 4 because it's super cold tolerant, because naturally where it grows in the wild, it gets really cold. And it's amazing that this tree that looks like a Japanese maple has that superpower to be able to be in that colder zone where an Acer palmatum couldn't grow.
I'm being told by the person in the comments in my ear that it said Oolong-Do. I can actually sense the comment section preemptively. I've seen the comment before. I think it's Oolong-Do, but love it. Great plant, and I think it's one you're definitely going to want to grow. Hopefully some future selections come out of this. It's an awesome plant with a lot of potential for the future, I think.
Guys, coming in at number 9, we've got Chamaecyparis nucatensis Sparkling Arrow. Yeah,
imagine that green arrow we talked about before, but it's sparkling. So this one's got some variegation going on there. As Tim likes to say, it has sparkles all over it. It's an amazing plant. And again, it's a very similar shape and construction to the green arrow, but it does have that added element of being variegated.
We shoot so many videos. I probably said that once, and you know what? Now it becomes something I like to say. So I'm going to start finding things that you've said once
Sparkles.
and say, as Matt likes to say, this is an amazing tree. It's got that vertical interest out there, and it's got that bling. It's got those sparkles.
I'm getting this from the man in the ear. Tim has said that 15 times in previous videos. It's sparkling. It's amazing. I love Sparkling Arrow. It really is next level for a conifer. It's one of those conifers that once you've seen it, you got to have it in your landscape. They don't revert a lot. They're stable. They're very interesting. Again, same shape as that green arrow, but just adds that added element of variegation.
And with, like green arrow, if it starts to get that skirt at the bottom, prune that out, and it'll get that narrow shape going up. It will stick those arms out and give that creature-like effect as well. And it's kind of like an eerie creature, which is really awesome to have out there in the garden.
Hey, whatever flips your skirt up, love it. Great plant. Coming in here next, we've got a Tokyo Tower.
Tokyo Tower, it's a Conifers retussus. Conifers retussus, extremely heat tolerant, and this has got a narrow shape. So this gives you a deciduous tree to use out there in the landscape. Some nice bark as it ages as well. But what this tree is really known for are some beautiful white blossoms during the summer.
I love Chinese French trees. They're just great plants. They're durable. They can go in place in the deep south. A lot of people can't grow dogwoods in full sun. You can grow a Chinese French tree in full sun, get that flowering effect to them. Durable, heat tolerant, great bark interest as well. Not a lot of people talk about that. You get that kind of exfoliating bark look to it over time. Really just an all-around great plant.
I mean, the Chinese French tree, Conifers retussus, has these beautiful string-like blooms. I mean, it's very tassely white blooms to it, which is really unique. And when you see this on a large tree, it's amazing. And you see this on a narrow tree, it's easy to use out there in the garden. I mean, the fact that this is such a durable, easy to use tree makes it awesome. And you get those white blooms on there as well. Y'all, this is a rock star columnar treat for those small gardens.
I think of Ted Stevens, our good buddy Ted. I've listened to enough of his garden talks. I was at Augusta one time, and he said, "Are we?" You know, in his sweet Southern accent that Ted always has, he said, "Are you going to put your dogwood in the sun down here in Augusta? Don't be such a fool. You got to plant a French tree. Love it. I always think of him with that plant. They're going to work zones 5 through 9, so a lot of the same places Japanese maples, but giving you that more narrow footprint in the landscape. Typically 5-6 foot wide, even on a 15-foot tree."
And this is a tree that's just going to be beautiful. You've probably never heard of a Chinese French tree if you're just getting into gardening, but you should check it out because it's an amazing tree you need to have in your garden.
All right, guys, coming here at number 7, we've got a ginkgo on the list. We've got Ginkgo biloba grindstone.
This tree is an amazing narrow ginkgo tree out there in the landscape and garden. Y'all, also known as Sky Tower, this tree was found on the Grindstone exit by Bob Lipka. And the Grindstone exit in Fly, Ohio, there's this grindstone there. I actually did a full cultivar breakdown on this. At this exit, there's a lot of columnar ginkgos that were used in the landscape. And one of them has a better shape than the others, and it became Ginkgo biloba grindstone.
Yeah, ginkgos, they're durable. They're work zones 3 through 9, so a lot of the U.S. they can cover. They're heat tolerant, they're salt tolerant, they're pollution tolerant, they're cold tolerant, they're very disease resistant. I think salt tolerance is one of the things that gets thrown out there that people forget, but that's a great quality, especially in a lot of gardens. This is an amazing plant. Not only is it a ginkgo, you get that amazing golden yellow fall color that you're familiar with ginkgo, but you get that very narrow, skinny approach to it. Really just an all-around great plant. Can't say enough good things about ginkgos. They go in full sun, in Dallas, Texas. So, you get this established. You can put ginkgos to shade out your other plants. And with grindstone, you get that tall columnar approach to it that really just looks spectacular, whether it's in the green or in that amazing fall shade.
And this is a male selection, so it doesn't produce the fruit. But if you're looking for the medicinal qualities of a ginkgo, this tree still has the leaves, which are amazing, that you can dry and turn into that ginkgo tea. That's actually what they make that ginkgo biloba out of, that you can find in the stores, that's supposed to be so good for your memory. Y'all, grindstone gives you that school bus yellow fall color. It's going to be great in your Japanese maple garden, but the fact that it has that narrow shape makes it great for your small garden as well.
All right, guys, we're up to number 6. Let's knock it out with a sugar maple. We've got Acer saccharum monumentale.
Monumentale has that narrow shape. Super narrow. I think about the first time I fell in love with this plant was the first time I saw it at Gristmill Landscaping. And it was Bob at Gristmill Landscaping just had this amazing specimen. It was probably 15, 20 feet tall. And, it's maybe a foot wide. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, what in the world is that? That thing is a rock star out there in the garden. It gives you a vertical interest, but in a vertical interest that seems unreal, something like you've never seen before.
Probably one of the most columnar plants on this list. We listed as 2 to 3 feet wide and 20 feet, but I've seen it be easily a foot, in most of its places. Being that it's a sugar maple, it's going to work zones 3 through 8. And you get some crazy fall colors. You get oranges and yellows on this in the fall, typically more of a bold orange late. It's just a showstopper, though. And you get that just absolute flagpole effect with this one. It's one of those trees that people definitely remember for its vertical interest, and it just kind of gets tall and narrow in a way that not a lot of plants do. You do want to prune out double leaders on this one if you can. You want to keep it to more of a central leader to keep that crazy effect going, especially when they're young. But man, what a cool plant. And it's one that gets big. So, 30 foot, you're talking 1.5 feet, 2 feet at 30 feet. That thing is super narrow.
I know that this is a tree you'll want to go take photos with because it is that cool. You see this tree out there and it's got its narrow shape and you're just like, wow, I've never seen anything quite like it.
I think Ed Shin bought that one from Bob Farmer you're talking about. I don't know if he bought that one specifically from Bob, but I remember Ed driving an SUV with 12 foot hanging off each side of the SUV of one of these, bringing it back to his garden at one point. So he had one and he just tied it at the top of the car and put the flags on either side of it. But he had like a 30-foot tree with multiple feet hanging off each side of his SUV. So cool. Rare to see at that size. Just an absolute amazing plant.
Coming at number 5, we've got another maple because we're maple people. We love maples. So the top of our list are going to be a lot of maples. Coming in at number 5, we've got Acer platanoides Resi. Now, this is a chance seedling that was found by Ed Rezik. And the rumor was that a certain percentage of the time, a tree not too far from Ed Rezik's place in Connecticut would throw chance seedlings that had this Rezik-like quality. And it's like this unique mutant that has a twisting leaf, but extremely narrow shape. Almost like a leaf, like a Shishigashira, if you think about Japanese maples, but on a Norway maple, it's got that rich green kind of color. But it has a even more narrow shape, which is an amazing, fun collector plant. Super slow growing.
Very slow growing. They do get big, though, long term. There's some massive ones at Buckholtz Nursery. There's a video we did where we walk you around some of the crazy big ones there. Guys, typically only at 6 to 7 foot tall. This one can be maybe a foot wide. We've got some at Buckholtz that are 25 foot now. So there's some beasts out there for this one, but really cool plant. Love the dark green foliage, kind of reminiscent of Shishigashira. It's got more of a darker green. You can get yellows and reds and oranges in that in the fall, so a lot of colors going on. There are several variants of this. I haven't noticed much of a difference myself. Like, I know there's Carlton, there's Curly Lamppost, there's several different ones. We've often offered Rezik just because Talon got onto Rezik very early, but I haven't really noticed much variation in those other forms yet. Yeah,
I mean, Rezik, if there's a lot of other trees that look like Rezik, really, are they any different? Should they have been introduced with a new name? They're cool. They're awesome because Rezik's awesome. And Rezik, I like it because it gives, a tribute to the guy who actually introduced this as well, who found this really cool trait. So that's the name we typically stick with on Rezik. An amazing tree, narrow form, easy to use in your garden, but it is a slow grower, so it does take some time to get there.
All right, guys, coming here at number 4, we got Tsukasa Silhouette.
Y'all, this is a selection by our friend Yataka Tanaka at Tsukasa Maple in Japan. It's narrow. It's a Japanese maple. It's easy to grow.
One of the best Japanese maples of them all. Tsukasa Silhouette is heat tolerant. They were using it in Japan as a street tree. You got to know it's got to be pretty durable to be a street tree. Love this plant, guys. Now, they're actually growing it as a street tree in the city of Hendersonville now as well. So there's several around the city of Hendersonville in parking lots. So that should tell you something. If it's got all that asphalt around it, it's pretty tough. Now, this one is going to be a green that goes to a bold red in the fall. Absolutely love this plant. Again, growing it in some sun actually adds to the columnar aspect of this plant.
Yeah, and when that sunlight, it keeps its nice narrow shape. It's extremely heat tolerant. It's durable. It's fast growing as well. So it gets out there and makes a nice sized tree out there in the landscape with some phenomenal underrated fall colors, because we talk about how narrow it is. We don't talk about how great its fall color is because it's what really distinguishes it from any of the other Japanese maples. But fall color wise, it's up there really high. I mean, it's got some really nice shades of red in the fall, and it's very consistent on that fall color as well.
I do recommend pruning out any low branches on this one that are forming a second central leader. You want just a central leader to this one. Typically a 15-foot tall tree is only about 6 foot wide. Now, the ones at Tsukasa, he did lightly prune in the summer to kind of reduce some of the growth out of that one. So a great time to prune this one's in summer to kind of reduce it. Once it's hardened off, you can take a little bit of that excess foliage out of there, kind of keep it even tighter. The ones at Tsukasa, I mean, he had some 20-footers that were only, a foot and a half wide. Now, those had been pruned to maintain that, but really cool tree. It already kind of accentuates that shape. So it's a tree you don't see a lot. Don kind of helped popularize this one, Don Shadow of the United States. He's actually credited with helping name this one at Tsukasa Maple as well. So he was visiting, and he has an introduction we may talk about here in a minute called Slender Silhouette, and kind of became a pairing with that, the Tsukasa Silhouette.
So, guys, we're down to the top 3, all the way down to the top 3 from 25 on top columnar plants. Let us know in the comment section below what your top 3 columnar plants and trees are. Probably could be different, could be the same as what we've got here on today's podcast. Yeah,
and if you listen to us on audio form, go over to our Facebook group. It's just Mr. Maple Friends on Facebook. We'd love to see you commenting there. Your top 3, top 5, whatever you want to do. Favorite columnar plants. It's into the big ones. There's some great ones left. Number 3, we got the Liquid Ambar Slender Silhouette. That's the one I was just mentioning, named by the late, great Don Shadow. Don, kind of a mentor to Tim and I, guy who's always very influential on us, and really spent the extra time. I love just digging through boxes in his office, talking about letters he wrote to people when he was a kid, talking about crazy plants. Well, Don was driving and saw this one and absolutely about wrecked his car looking at the Slender Silhouette, native here to the southeast United States. This Liquid Ambar is super durable, super fast growing, but also super columnar.
And it was found on the side of some train tracks. Like, can you imagine just looking down from a road on some train tracks and seeing this thing just so narrow growing up? And Don said, that's a winner, and grafted it. Y'all, it's an amazing tree. It's durable. It's a sweet gum. So it's as tough as a sweet gum. I mean, those things are bulletproof. You get some really nice shades of red in the fall on it as well. But the narrow habit, it has such a fastigiate form that it makes this tree so easy to use out in the landscape and garden.
Now, what makes this one so crazy, I think, and what makes it stand out on this list is similar to the Monumentale, is it gets big. So you can look at some crazy big specimens of this. I mean, it's not uncommon. There's some here at the North Carolina Arboretum that are 50 feet tall. And, you know, those things are no more than 4 foot wide. So you're looking at a tree that's 50 foot tall, 4 foot wide. I mean, it just has this crazy impact on the landscape. I mean, I absolutely love it. But, I mean, you talk about regal and columnar and not giving much width. It's hard to beat Slender Silhouette. At
the North Carolina Arboretums, as you mentioned it, they use them as like focal point plantings. Literally, the whole bed is focused around making how awesome the Slender Silhouette is. Gives you that vertical interest, which makes your garden, you know, we talked about how that verticality can add depth to your garden. And that's what it does. It makes you feel like you're at a palace or something else when you see these large Slender Silhouettes. And it's so cool, though, too, because during their light show, they actually wrap the Slender Silhouettes in lights that dance with the music.
Beams, yeah, that dance on the music.
That's always a fun, unique thing to have out there as well. You get that verticality. It's fun to play with it.
I've seen them in gardens in New York used as screens where they had planted, 15 or so of these less than 2 feet apart. So eventually they were kind of touching, very fast growing, deciduous shading screen. Really cool way to do it. Typically orangey to yellow fall color. So great looking plant. Now I like this one because it does get out there quickly. So it establishes the first few years, but then it kind of leaps. So it's not uncommon you get a 1 gallon or 3 gallon of this. Don't be afraid to buy them small. They take off, guys. You don't have to buy a giant one of this. They grow fast. Once you've had this tree in the ground for about 3 years, I would say it's not uncommon for you to get 3 foot of growth a year after that.
And it takes off there. And it's such a beautiful thing. I mean, I mentioned that it had some red fall color. It can be red, but it can also get some yellows and oranges in it that are outrageous in the fall. And
conditions can change that fall color a little bit. So you mentioned red, I mentioned yellows and oranges, but I've seen all three on it.
They can, and it is so beautiful. It is such a vigorous plant out there. The verticality is amazing. I mean, I've seen this thing used along the side of walkways. I've seen it at the entrance of gardens. It's such a fun tree to play with and use because you know its verticality is going to add so much to that landscape.
All right, number 2 is showing up on our list, y'all. It's Twombly's Red Sentinel. You knew that one was coming. One of our favorite columnar Japanese maples, maybe the best of them all. Introduction by Ken Twombly. Just a great columnar selection.
Yeah, I mean, this is a flagpole of color. It's a Japanese maple like fire glow. You get that cherry red kind of color. You get some glowing effects. You get some just amazing maroon during the summer and some bright fire engine red fall colors. Its tall, narrow shape makes this easy to use and one of the best columnar Japanese maples to use in any landscape.
Yeah, it's got a lot of what you like about fire glow. It's got kind of that dark color, but then it gets to kind of it can green up a little bit in heavy sun, especially in like August or September, but it holds the color as good as fire glow. It holds the color extremely well. And then it just goes this fiery red in the fall. So you get this great color out of it. Absolutely love it for its durability. Again, you want to grow this one in some sunlight. If you're growing it in sunlight, it does increase the columnarness of this maple.
And this is a tree that's easy to use. I've seen it plenty of times used on the corners of houses because they've got a shallow, non-invasive root system. But, if you've got a walkway that turns, that you were looking for something that doesn't take up a lot of space, Twombly's Red Sentinel, easy thing to do because it doesn't take up a lot of space and gives you some of that good red color.
All right, guys, we're all the way down to number 1, and we promised a weird one here. So it's going to be a Mr. Maple introduction you haven't heard about yet. That's why we saved it for number 1, kind of for fun. But it is in the works. We've got Conifers Lighthouse. Now, this is one I found that is a 20-foot tall tree. We're grafting it at Buckholtz Nursery in here at Mr. Maple. A 20-foot tall tree of Kusa that's only about 2 feet wide.
Chinese dogwoods, the Cornus Kusas, are awesome. They're more mildew resistant. They're anthracnose resistant, so they're disease-free and easy to use out there in the landscape and garden. And they have those white blossoms on there during the summer that are just amazing. And so they bloom after our native dogwoods, which is the Cornus floridus. The Cornus kousa is awesome in itself and easy to grow, but the fact that we've got now a narrow-growing Cornus kousa, it's a game changer.
Now, when this one blooms, typically around Easter, it is a white blooming kousa, but it blooms so prolifically you typically can't even see the structure of the tree. It's just a flagpole of white blooms. So that's where we got the name Lighthouse. Lights up the garden right there. It's that beacon of color.
Y'all, this will be a game changer. I think a lot of cities will be using this because it's a durable plant, but at the same time, it's something that has lots of beauty to it with its blooms, but it doesn't take up a lot of space. I think a lot of gardeners are going to be using this in their small garden because you can enjoy everything you love about a Chinese dogwood, and it's not going to overgrow your space. I mean, that's the thing about this columnar form is it makes it easy to use in small gardens and small spaces.
I love this one, guys. I think it's probably the most narrow of any kousa I've seen. Beautiful structure to it. Great red fall color, too. I mean, it's got fall color. It's got green foliage. But, man, that shape and those flowers, probably one of the most prolific bloomers I've seen on a columnar dogwood as well. And
that's the thing about Cornus kousa. I mean, there are so many forms out there. There's been a few forms that were more on the more narrow shape, but there's never been anything that is as narrow as Lighthouse.
Yeah, this one I think is the skinniest. It's been hitting the Ozempic a little bit. This one's thin.
So I think this is going to be a fun game changer when it comes to columnar trees for your small gardens.
I love it. Grab you a Cornus kousa Lighthouse when they come out here first on Mr. Maple. Probably going to be a trademark name. Probably going to be a patented plant when we get this one all done. But I think it's going to be a game changer for kousas.
Y'all, thanks for jumping in on today's top 25 columnar plants for small gardens and small spaces. Hopefully this has given you some ideas if you've got a small garden for a narrow growing tree that you can use.
I love these. I mean, some of these are some of the best plants we grow. Some of the most usable plants, because of that we're all running out of space. So grab you a columnar tree, enjoy those benefits of having that verticality, but not a lot of room used up. As we get less and less room in our landscape, a lot of us like to collect plants. The columnar ones tend to come in good, right? It's like the skinny plants. You could put a little bit more in there.
Y'all, thanks for jumping in today. We'd really appreciate it if you shopped with us on MrMaple.com. If you like this type of content, make sure you follow us here on your favorite podcast platform, but also on YouTube where we put out daily videos about gardening and primarily about Japanese maples.
Take care.
God bless.
Have yourself a great day.